Hello again, this is Jeffrey Geisner from the Obligation of Memory podcast network on YouTube and Facebook for the Jewish Culture and Holocaust Remembrance group. I'm speaking with the Maggid family, and we're talking about, on this episode, we're going to pick up where we left off. I asked of both Adam and Liana about their relationship with their grandmother, and we heard some great things there, so I recommend you going back to the prior episode to hear more from them. But Randi also was going to add some thoughts as to how she sees her children as it relates to her survivor parents and herself, and some of the trauma that she's went through growing up in her own survivor's home.
Yeah, there are definitely some beautiful generational gifts. But trauma, how I saw trauma was in myself first, that I would feel scared sometimes, just for no reason, total fear. And I cleared that up within myself during my life. But when I saw my kids do that, when they were little, they would be afraid for no reason. And it got to the point where I realized, okay, it's through the lineage, it's through the cells. This is coming through to them. This is epigenetics. And what can I do about this? And I would take them to do network spinal analysis. It's a kind of chiropractic energy work. And it really helped.
How old were they?
8, 9, 10.
Do you
11,
remember?
12, 13.
Do you remember these? Do you remember these episodes?
Yeah,
Liana and Adam?
Yeah.
in like elementary school, I'd say, just or before too. Just like getting really terrified and like not able to sleep for a while and stuff like that. It would be pretty bad.
So there were causation for you to be able to move in that direction.
Yeah.
And you were also scared, Liana?
I don't know. I like don't remember this. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you did. You were like that too, both of you. And I believe more so Adam, but you both had that. And so basically, with Ben's permission, I nipped it in the bud naturally with some energy work, and every single time, I never let it go. If something like this was happening, we would do something about it. And it's something that felt good and wasn't traumatizing and wasn't medication, nothing like that. It's something that really just reorganizes the system.
So we didn't cover how you got into alternative health. So I think probably we should dial back a couple of stints and let you describe your own journey into alternative medicine and how you have healed yourself using alternative medicine.
Well, I'll backtrack and say I watched my brothers take pills, and that never worked. It just was. So I know that for me, and I'm not judging anyone who takes medication at all, but for me, that it's not medication for this kind of thing. I think it blocks the creative process, meaning, so both of my kids at around 12, 13 got a little bit depressed. And with the shamanic viewpoint, it's a rite of passage. It's something you have to go through, something that you have to live through, work through, get through. It's just like I did. And you get to the other side of it. But if you're blocking it with medication, or you're blocking it with drugs or this or that, I just feel like it's not the way to go. And I supported my kids for actually going through it and feeling all their emotions. And I think that feeling the emotions and not blocking them was a big part of their own healing journey really young, so that they don't have to deal with this kind of stuff their whole life.
Do you feel, Adam and Liana, that when you have a challenge in your life today, that you're leaning on this view today?
Yeah, definitely. I think I feel like when you have a mom that's very open to that kind of healing, you realize that it's very natural to have waves. It can't all be good. It's life is a balance. So I feel like that's definitely something that, you got to take it day by day, and you're not going to have 100% of the energy and the happiness that you want all the time, or it just wouldn't, that's just not how life works. So I think I definitely use that every day.
And Adam?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Just I normally just do things like naturally without taking anything, but it's more so just I believe like kind of my mom has taught me like I can do things, like more things than I think I can. I'm capable of a lot. And with her help, I can do even more.
So so a quick test for me. Adam, who are you like, your mom or your dad?
I think I'm like casually more like my dad, like day to day.
Okay, and Liana?
I don't know. I used to think more my dad, but as I've gotten older, definitely my mom. Like we're like twins. So
I
probably
would, I made 100%, so I got it. So I pegged that you were Adam, like just like dad, and Liana, you're like your mom. So I feel pretty good about my success rate so far. So that's good. All right, so we now know that you've gotten, but what was the catalyst for you to get into this path of alternative health?
When I thought everything was perfect, I was living back in LA, driving my car. We were driving to grandma's house, listening to the Beatles, and I turned my head left and I felt something strange. And it turned out the next day, I couldn't move my body. My ear was stuck to my left shoulder like this, and I was in horrible pain. And I fell apart. My body fell apart, and the doctors I went to said that if I didn't have surgery within a week, I would lose all the feeling in my left arm because I couldn't lift my arm more than a quarter inch up at the same time. And I was terrified.
And how old were you?
40-ish.
Okay.
I don't, yeah,
Something like 15 years ago.
yeah.
Okay.
And thank you.
And you guys are around, 8 years old or something like that, and maybe 6 years old for Adam. Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, so they were all watching me just be in pain and try to figure this out. And I had a higher power come in and say, no, you're not having the surgery. There's another way. Basically, I just knew there was another way, and I took the chance that I would be able to use my arm again. And I just started trying every single alternative thing I could think of, anything that came my way, I did. And there's certain things that stood out that were better for me than other people. But I believe that everybody can find their own solution, whether it's acupuncture or network spinal analysis or breath work. So breath work was something I did a lot of to heal myself. And then I went to this healer training to heal myself. And it turned out that I was a really good healer for other people. So that's when I switched paths and I started to learn a lot of different things about.
And when was this?
This was as I was healing that. I guess this was about 15, 20 years ago, around the same time. After my body fell apart, that was part of my journey. So
and from that point to when you started to journal for your book was how much time?
maybe a year. I journaled through the whole thing, actually.
So was journaling also an alternative method of healing for you?
Yes.
And so but how did you choose the subject to journal? Because you could journal on Dave, you could journal on Ben and the kids and all kinds of other subjects.
So what happened was I'd wake up at 3 a.m, I'd get my journal, and I would just know to write a story, and I would remember something because I couldn't remember anything about my childhood before that. And Ben would remember every date, everything that happened. You could still see I have problems with that sometimes, but when I would get up at 3, I got the whole picture, and I would just write it as though a higher power was telling me, okay, this is what you got to write next. And then I started to remember my childhood, all the little bits and pieces that were blocked out.
But what about your parents didn't talk to you about the Holocaust? So what were you writing about?
I was writing about the stories that happened to me
Okay.
in my
And what-
house, because in my house there was an echo of the Holocaust. I had a very violent household. I was emotionally abused by one brother, physically by another, and my mom kind of just let it all happen. So I blocked that all out, and I would go to school in Beverly Hills, and I'd look great. I had a job after work. I got straight A's. I was perfect, but inside I was falling apart, and I believe that's why my whole body fell apart, because I couldn't hold it together anymore.
Okay, I want to, because I know we're going to have to, let's say goodbye to both Liana and Adam at some point. So you've obviously read your mom's book, right?
Liana did.
Not yet, no.
Adam, okay, so that's an interesting point. So Liana, as a reader and not as a daughter of a mom who author, what are your impressions of the book as a reader? And why would someone your age, which is, I'm all about trying to teach the Holocaust lessons to a younger audience. I'm not about, showing black and white films with bones being shoveled into by bulldozers. I don't think that doesn't teach you and younger generations why there should be no hate and why we're experiencing tremendous rises of anti-Semitism. So I want to know, why would someone of your age who's not related to your mom find this book something that they would want to read? Outside of the title.
I think you kind of just alluded to something in that question. Like my good friend actually has read my mom's book. My roommate just bought my mom's book. So I think like a lot of young people do find it very fascinating. And I think I agree, like when you learn about the Holocaust in school and you're taught about it, it's like a one and done event. And that's really just not the case. It's a generational trauma. It lasts for so long. And it's books like these that can teach us that. So I don't want to learn about it in a textbook that really just doesn't show the longevity of it and the fact that we're still dealing with the repercussions today. So I think it's such an interesting book, and it's so funny and it's entertaining too. So I think that is a big aspect of why young people are attracted to it as well.
So we're just going to start doing some sneak peeks here. So you said it's really entertaining, it's really funny. So pick out a couple parts for our audience that you find to be something that would literally be like a trailer.
Okay.
Don't give away the spoiler. So
no, I really, that's a hard one. Because like you have to like read for example, like my grandma's accent is so funny. Like the way she pronounces certain things in the book, it's just like ridiculous. And
do you know how to do her accent?
I can't. No, that's what I was gonna say. Is like you gotta read it.
Well, Randi, do you know how to do her accent?
I actually did the audiobook, and I did her accent.
What is her accent? Go ahead.
I need a phrase. Give me a phrase.
Oh, you got to eat. You got to eat more. I made a whole pot of matzo ball soup.
Eat. What's the matter with you?
That's good. That was good.
Okay. And so, Adam, why? Interesting enough, you're of age. So why haven't you decided to read it? I'm not objecting that, and you have your own reasons, and I'm certainly not wanting to put you on hey, you have to read your mom's book. But tell me, there's obviously a reason why you haven't. Just like I didn't read anything about the Holocaust until I was 62 years old. So I shouldn't talk, right? So tell me about your reasons for not reading.
Well, I mean, initially I did. I asked if I could read it, but I think at the time, maybe it wasn't so much that I was like too young. It was just like she would have been trying to keep me like back from it a little bit. So there was a little pushback initially, but and it kind of just slipped, and then I was just waiting. But I do want to read it. I mean, I'm planning on reading it now. It's just that it was there was I asked her if I could read it. It just was like at the time too young, or let's wait. And now I'm going to.
Okay, mom wants to speak, so go ahead.
There's some racy things in that book. I wasn't an angel, and I didn't want him to read it yet, but now he can. So
What's the age that you think someone's appropriate age for someone to read your book?
13 and up. I think so.
Okay.
Right, Leona? Or no, you don't agree?
Probably like 16.
Okay, 16.
Come on, get it right, mom. You got.
I mean,
There's millions of people going to listen to this, so let's go.
I read it at 16, around then.
yeah,
No, yeah, like and it was still raunchy for me, so I feel like it would be like 16.
it was funny that her friends would get the book and read it before she did. It was interesting.
All right, so we're gonna now squarely go on to the book. So, tell us a little before we get into it. You said that the book helped you transfer a lot of the inner trauma that you were having, and you called it Beverly Hills Holocaust.
Beverly Hills Concentration Camp.
I'm sorry, Beverly Hills
That's okay.
Concentration.
Easy mistake.
I apologize. So I want to understand your sort of your thought process on how you decide to write this book and how you decide to name this book.
Well, first, I would write on yellow legal pads. I have a picture somewhere. There was this big pile of them. I would just write and write and write and write. It was stream of consciousness to the point where I couldn't stop. And, it's almost like, between the words of the Torah or something, like there's something in the writing and in between the words that I would get a download of something that happened. And maybe I would remember something or put something together. And it was like the journaling was connecting the dots for me.
And you took 6 years.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Well,
And
6 years to write it, to journal and to type. I had this big pile of chicken scratch, that I was writing by hand because it seemed to flow better with a pen. And then one day I just typed it all up.
Okay, so tell the audience, without giving away any spoilers, if you had to create your own book trailer, tell me how you would tell the audience about the book as if it was like a movie trailer.
Oh, wow. I want it to be a movie.
All right, Liana, to help your mom. Help your mom, Liana.
A scene from the book?
Yeah, the movie book trailer.
I feel like you would have to do one of you in like high school.
Okay.
Like maybe walking out, like maybe just going to high school after having like a very terrible night the night before and having like a boyfriend and trying to be like very normal.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so now I'm thinking about it.
No?
Yes, I agree with
Ben is shaking his head, so we can't let him not come on. So if you're muted, get off mute and let Ben add his 2 cents in here.
Well, the opening scene of the book is the trailer.
Okay, tell us, talk.
The police come to the door, and there's mayhem going on in the household, and somebody's called the police, and now the police show up.
Which
I
household?
called
Your
it.
house? Your household?
It was my house when I was a teenager, and I called the police because my brother was being violent. But the opening scene is a policewoman coming to the door and my brother opening the door and the conversation that went on. Right, Ben? Is that?
Yeah, and what she told you.
Yeah, and she told me
Give us a little bit more, so we can excite the audience in wanting to hear more.
So I was afraid. I called the police. The police came. I heard my brother go open the door, and I think he was just wearing boxer shorts, and he opened the door, And the policewoman asked me to come to the door and asked me if I was okay. And I said yes. And she said, is he always like this? And I said yes. And she said, when you're 18, get out of here. As soon as you're 18, get out of here. And I listened to her, but I wrote it out, you know, and it does seem like a movie when you read the book. Each part seems like a movie scene. Just coincidentally, if anyone wants to make a movie with me.
So would you describe this as a Holocaust memoir or a self-healing book?
No, I think this is what's interesting about it. It's my life now, or in the book, it's the current life, but then there's the flashbacks from, you know, there's the girl in the pain, and then there's the flashbacks of growing up, but within that are flashbacks of the Holocaust, of what my mother went through in the Holocaust. So it's basically a wild story, but you go all the way to the generational trauma, and you can see how that affected my life and how it affects my family's life now. So there's there's layers to it.
So you were mentioning before we started that you're doing a lot of interviews and you're doing a lot of presentations to book groups. How are you explaining this story to a book group?
I start by saying that this was my life, and I lived inside a beautiful Spanish house. I went to Beverly Hills High. I looked perfect, but inside my house was the echo of the Holocaust. And maybe that's what I should have told you in the beginning, that, yeah, that's really what this is about.
Okay, so who published the book?
I self-published it.
Okay, interesting. So when you got your box of books back from your publisher, what was the feeling?
It was a great feeling. Ben videotaped the what do you call it? The crate coming off the truck, going into the garage, you know, and I send my books to Amazon, you know, like it's what?
2 pallets.
Yeah. No, it was 1 pallet.
2 pallets.
2 pallets? All
Yeah.
right. Well, yeah. So I got a good deal on the book. So I got a lot of them.
Well, self-publishing is actually a very interesting way to go. I heard from an author, his name is Howard Kaplan. He's a very well-known author. He actually had one of his books made into a film. And I didn't know this, but he said that he even though he's had, you know, he's written 6 or 7 books and they've been very popular, that it's impossible to get a publisher today because there's only 4 corporations who publish all the books in the world. So he had to self-publish, and what I didn't know is that Amazon, when you order your book that's on Amazon, they print on demand your book.
Oh yeah, they do that too. Mm-hmm.
Right, right per order. So it's quite amazing. So let's go back. You did what was the research for your book?
The research. There was some interesting research. Some of it was started a little bit in a supernatural way, but what's coming up for me right now is when I would get these flashes of these kids playing. They were blonde and they didn't look at all like me. And I went to a healer who said, you know, Google them, Google these people. And actually, I looked at the details of them and I Googled them, and they turned out to be the Goebbels children. And and that's in my book, how I got to that place, how I wrote about them. I printed their picture out. I showed my mother the picture, and she goes, of course I know who they are. She told me the whole story about them. So this is in the book too. So there are some downloads from spirit that I get, which helped me write this book. And it's not a coincidence that I chose certain stories to write about, and I really wrote this to help people because I wasn't going to make it a book. And then someone said to me, you know, if it helped just one person, would you write it? Would you publish it? Would you pay for it? And I said yes. And so far it's helped a lot of people. So yeah.
So you researched, and then your writing took 6 years. Okay. So do you have a process on how, so we have a lot of like authors who want to be authors. We have authors who are successfully published authors, both from publishing houses and self-published, and each person has a process. So what would you describe as your process? And is there tips for would-be authors who are thinking about their memoirs of their parents that you would provide to our audience?
The most important thing, I think, is to not edit yourself and just write, and don't care what anybody thinks. And like, for example, when I started writing, I didn't read any of my stories yet because I didn't want to be, what if someone didn't like it? I might not write, I might not have written the book. I might have been dissuaded from going forward. So I think the best thing is just to write and write and write, because you can always edit later. Don't say, oh, it has to be like for me, the structure of an outline doesn't really work. That's just for me. I think that writing it out is very healing, and that'll also heal you. And then you can put it in your whatever structure you want later. So that would be my advice. And my process is really writing with my hand and a pen in the middle of the night or in the morning. So now the best thing to do is just to journal all the time, when you want to, but maybe every morning, at least write a word. And maybe the next day will be 2 paragraphs and just.
So my natural extension is, do you have journal 2 going on right now?
Yes, my book was really me being the hero, victim, and villain of my life. And I see it from the future now. And the place I'm at now is really about healing humanity. It's gone beyond what I ever thought it would be. And I'm really excited about the next book that's coming.
What do you already have that far enough along that you can give it a title?
No.
Okay. So did you try to get the book from a publishing house, or you just went right to self-publishing?
I just went right to self-publishing. Honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just did it. I would really like to make it a movie. I think it would be spectacular. I want my daughter to play me, and
And Adam, so you've read the book, I assume? No, I'm sorry, Ben. You've read the book, okay? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so give me how you see the book.
I was also one of the editors.
Okay, that's great. That's a great question to be answered. So tell me a little bit about the book from your point of view, and where you see it as an aid, and where you see it as an aid to the world.
Well, I think, first of all, it kind of it's become Randi's professional calling card. So it's something that Randi can kind of sets her apart from other people, because if you want Randi to heal you, you can kind of get to know where she's coming from before that happens, and that's not that common, actually, because a lot of these healers, you have no clue what their background is, or where they're coming from, or how they got to where they are, or why they're even healers. And I think it kind of makes it crystal clear for Randi that she was kind of born into this situation, and Randi has a natural gift for healing, and she's had these, what she calls, downloads her whole life, about people and about how they feel and what's going on with them. And I think that if you read the book, you kind of Randi doesn't tout her own horn in that book, but you kind of get that feeling that this would be somebody that you could trust, and she's been through a lot herself and come out of it, and now kind of turned it on its head and turned the pain and the frustration into the ability to help heal that pain and frustration in others. And but the book, as far as Randi's concerned, as far as her progression as a healer and as a shaman, the book was a stepping stone. It was a kind of a a first step that was very deep and took a long time, and a process that I think Randi had to come to terms with too, and the reader will as well while they're reading. But she's grown way beyond that now. That the book is old news as far as Randi being a healer and what she's bringing to the world. And I think that'll be more something that she'll be focusing on in her second book. But Randi already is now a renowned healer with a following, and it's great to be able to see who she is and where she's coming from. So that's what the book does.
So like me, you're in business, and I don't want to put it to a test, but I'll just ask the question. You don't have to answer it. So you have ups and downs in your business, and sometimes those ups can be very exhilarating, and the downs could be really depressing. So how do you lean on Randi as a shaman to help you over the goods and the bad times?
Well, first of all, my most difficult time in business was before Randi was a shaman. And once you go through a hard time in business, you kind of you grow that thicker skin. I mean, either you do or you get out. But I did, and it was kind of around the same time that Randi was writing the book. Actually, Randi was going through a lot of pain, and so I resolved it by making a change that has worked out to be very good. It's a change for the better. But yeah, I think we were kind of going through a pretty hard time together, and that was before Randi was the healer. That was when she was still healing herself. And once you come out of that, you kind of, I think you're a little bit immune to.
Well, you're lucky. For me, I had many downsides. My whole career has been up and down because I build startups. So not all startups work.
Right, but once you have a big down, the next one is not going to be as serious. You're not going to take it as seriously.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's just that for me, and I don't want to get into me, but my life is my work, and my work is my life, and that's a really dangerous place. And so when you have a failure in a business, you feel like your life is a failure. Yeah. So it just is my creative personality that reacts that way. My personality may be different. So let me segue into where you are now, because you obviously, Adam indicated, or Ben indicated that you have a following, you have a practice. You're in Beverly Hills, which is, I think, really an interesting place to have a practice. I deal with the world of what they call total addressable markets, which is the amount of potentially you can, how big of a market is it? So I think you have a great market in being in Beverly Hills. Would you, if you were in Chicago, would it be the same?
Actually, I'm in Redondo Beach.
Okay.
I don't live in Beverly Hills anymore. And people come to me, they drive here. And I also am on Zoom. So the way I look at it is that the people who are supposed to show up, and they do.
How do they find you?
Mostly word of mouth. I'm also on social media, and I send emails out, but normally it's through word of mouth.
And so you published the book in when?
2016.
And tell us what, and you self-published it. So how did you market the book?
I had a company, I think it was called Smith. They did the initial marketing of it.
How did that work for you?
And it's still the same. It's like, if I put some effort into it, if I go speak somewhere, or if I do a talk, I will definitely get people interested. So it was okay. I mean, I wouldn't say it was great. I was hoping to get more people to know about it, and maybe this podcast will help more people know about it. Again, I wasn't an expert marketer. I just did what I thought I should do. So it did work. I did get some publicity. I did, you know, I have a presence.
Mhm. And what I'm interested is, what was the audience reaction from the Holocaust community?
Oh, mixed. If they were expecting a Holocaust history book, they did not like it. They didn't understand. If it was an older person, they just didn't understand what I was doing. But most other people, you know, let's say book clubs in my neighborhood, you know, after they read it, people would start to come up to me and tell me all about their children, things that they never told anybody else. And because they trust, there's a trust there. Like I opened up my life to everything, good and bad, when I sent this book out with that title. And people come to me for help, and they can speak to me. And it's not, you know, it could be, what I'm noticing is it's multi-generational. Like, let's say a dad comes for help, you know, and sees me, then he'll tell his mother to come, then he'll tell his daughter to come. You know, it's like, there's some trust there. And I really have a lot of gratitude for that
Mhm.
families are trusting me.
So how do you want us, this audience, both the YouTube audience and the podcast Obligations of Memory audience, to know about you, and why and how do they contact you?
They can just go to www.randimaggid, RandiMaggid.com, and they can contact me through my website, and they can write to me. That would be the easiest way, and they can call me. There's a phone number there.
And obviously you do Zoom around the world, because our audience is around the world.
Zoom around the world.
And how would you like this this podcast to end? So give it the exit.
I'd like it to end. Let's heal the world. Let's shine the light for the next generations. Let's shine it. Let's not live in the pain. Let's not forget, but let's not live in the pain anymore. Let's shine the light and move forward, and with love.
And that's a beautiful way to end our interview episodes. We're had quite a lovely session with the Maggid family, and we're talking about the Beverly Hills Concentration Camp, the book that Randi has authored, and it's available on Amazon. And it's a great read, and I would suggest, if you are interested in the work that Randi's doing in the area of alternative health and alternative healing, and if you've struggled with traditional medicine and it hasn't worked for you, I suggest that you get a hold of Randi. And Randi, you can get Randi's website. Will be on the channels for you to be able to find. So thank you, everyone, for your time. And it was a really interesting set of discussions today. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.